What's up, T.O.Gs? Today I've got a new rider tip for you, and this is a new rider tip. Sometimes when I have new rider tips, they are aimed towards a certain group, maybe a certain demographic of people. But this is a really broad new rider tip that I wanted to talk about today. And I know I've talked about certain aspects of buying your first bike, but this is a more broad tip than, you know, like really focused down into like parking a motorcycle or anything like that. I'm going to open this up to a much broader scope, which is making that choice for your first bike and why it's important to make the right choice. And when I say the right choice, again, this is all relative because, you know, all of us get into riding at different ages. You know, we don't all want to ride the same kind of bike. When I say same kind of bike, we don't all want to ride a cruiser. We don't all want to ride a sport naked bike. We don't want to ride a sport bike or an adventure bike. There's all these different kinds of styles, different age groups. Even maybe the region that you live in, there's a lot of people who ride sport bikes, and that has an influence on you as well. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about today about picking your first bike is making sure that it's the right bike, because what happens if you make a selection on your first bike that you're not happy with is it sours you to the riding experience. And that's bad. That's bad for you, because you might end up not wanting to ride anymore. And then, right, this passes on down. Like if you're a dad or a mom who just started riding, or you know, you might have influence on your siblings or your friends. If they see that you didn't enjoy riding, or your experience with learning to ride and getting your first motorcycle wasn't a good one, it might trickle down to them. So this is why it's important to make that first selection on your bike wisely. So first of all, buying a bike is not fun. Choosing that first bike, the one that you decide to buy, that's fun, right? Looking at websites, or going to dealerships or used bike lots and finding that bike that speaks to you. But the whole aspect of sitting down and doing the numbers and negotiating and signing paperwork, that is not fun. So if you don't want to have to do that again very shortly, there's a couple factors that you want to consider, and I've talked about these in previous videos. I'll probably link them here. But you want to buy a bike that fits you physically. You want to buy a bike that you're not going to get bored with quickly. And these are just really quick hitter things about your first bike purchase. And I think the biggest thing is that you want to pick a bike that you're not going to get bored with really quick. That's probably the biggest thing. And when I say get bored, is you don't want to get a 250cc bike if you're really confident in your skills and you want to get out on the highway and do certain things. You want to make sure that the bike has a little bit of room to grow, and it all depends on your skill level. It depends on where you're at, your confidence level. Oh, and aside from not buying a bike that you're going to get bored with quickly, you want to make sure that you're not buying a dud, right? A bike that you're like, oh, you know, it just needs this to be done on it and it'll be fine and I can ride it and it'll be good. You know, that's fine. If you want to buy a bike that needs to be fixed up a little bit and you know that it can be, that's fine. But don't buy a bike thinking that it will be okay and then it's not okay, because that's something you don't want to do, is end up buying a bike that needs so much work that you don't get to ride it very often. When you buy your first bike, you want to make sure that you're able to ride a lot and ride when you want to. If you can't ride when you want to, then maybe you stop riding it and then it sits in your garage, your carport, or whatever, your driveway, and then eventually you're just like, well, this was just kind of a pain in the and I'm just gonna not ride anymore, and boom, you know, now you've got to sell the bike, you got to get rid of it or do whatever it is with the bike that you decide to do, and you might never ride again. It really is easy for that to happen. I've seen it happen to people who go out and take their MSF course and they buy their first bike, you know, and either it's a dud or they got bored with it and it just sits, and then eventually they just sell it and they never go back. And again, as a rider in the riding community, you know, that's just, we don't want that to happen. We want everyone to have a good experience, and hopefully by watching this and listening to what I have to say about it on this topic, you get an idea, and maybe you'll make a better choice. And maybe what needs to happen too is you need to find the right time to take that MSF course and get your license, and really make sure that everything lines up so that you have the best chance to enjoy riding, to progress in your rider skill, and then become a lifelong rider. Because really, that's what we want, right? I think as someone in the motorcycle riding community, the more of us out here, the better. And I think the more we're out here, the safer it makes us, because it makes people a little more vigilant, a little bit more aware that we're out here. You know, the fewer riders that there are in your town or your region, the less people look out for you, and the less safe that makes it for everybody, I think. So the last thing I'll say about selecting that first bike, and the important things that you need to consider when you buy your first bike, is find that bike that you connect with. I know that this sounds cliche, or it might sound cheesy, but you gotta have like that connection. You gotta have that factor of, yeah, that's my bike, I can't wait to get on it. It might be the way it looks, you might love the way it rides, you might love the way it feels, you might love the way it sounds, right? All of these things you want to consider when you're buying your first bike. You want to get as close as you can, and this is what I do. We do this with my bikes, and I've done this with cars, is to make a checklist of the things that you want in your first bike, right? Maybe the engine size or the power, the style, the sound, and then go out and ride it. And the bike, I think, that checks off, oh, something's going on at Dutch Brothers. Oh, maybe it's just these kids getting out of school and getting coffee. You want to get the bike that checks off the most boxes. And that bike, if it checks off the most boxes and you have that connection, right? That chemistry, if you can have chemistry with a motorcycle. I'm sure there are a lot of you out there that say, oh yeah, me and my bike have chemistry. You want to find that bike that that becomes like an extension of you. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I think every bike that I've bought, and this is my 5th bike, I get on it and I'm like, yeah, that's me, and that's a part of me. So anyway, as cheesy as that sounds, that's the way I feel, and hopefully some of you can back me up in the comments. Alright guys, that's all I've got for you on this new rider topic of buying your first motorcycle and making the right choice. Hopefully you'll take these words and use them, and they'll be of some assistance to you in the process of you learning to ride and getting your first motorcycle. Hi guys, this is the time where I ask you, if you like this video, to hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like video, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and come back and see me. Guys, if you're out there riding, be safe, and if you're not riding, get riding. I'm that one guy, and I am out.